Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Hello my lovely students. Now it's time for you for grade 12 of MYP High School Al Firdaus. The first unit for our first semester in grade 12 is about review and also deep understanding about short story or narrative text. Yes, in grade 10 and also 11, you have learned about short story or narrative text. So I just want to remind you about the definitions of narrative text. First, this is what we call as narrative or short story text. Yeah. So this is a text that tells an imaginative story, and the purpose of the text is entertain the readers. So there are some examples that we have learned in last grade about narrative or short story. The first is myths, legends, fairy tales, folk tales, dreaming stories, science fiction, and historical fictions, and etc. Next is about the generic structures of narrative text. Or maybe it can be called as elements of the narrative text or short story. There are some elements that we have to know. The first is orientation or introduction of a story or narrative text. So in orientation, sometimes or usually use some points that we have to know. First is about who is in the story, and then when the story is taking place and where the action is happening. So for the next is complication. Complication is about what we call as the main point of the story or the problems that come in the story. So uh, it can be called also as the problem start to happen in a story or narrative text. Next is sequence of events. So there are some events or some problems or some stories in narrative text or short stories. Next is about resolution. So how the problems can be solved, how to overcome the problems for the characters of the story. So there is a resolution. Next, the last one is about coda. Coda provides a comments or moral value or message that can be take or that can be learned from the story. The next is language features. So there are some points or language or types of tenses that usually used in narrative text or short stories. The first is usually using past tense, and the next is adverb of time, and you can see the examples right at the slide. So past tense, adverb of times means keterangan waktu, and then time conjunctions, and also action verbs like something that the characters did in the story, and then direct speech usually use present tense. Some sentence or words that usually said by the characters of the story usually used direct speech. Ungkapan langsung atau kalimat langsung. Next is specific characters. Usually in short story or narrative text, there is a main characters, or we can call it as the first or yes, the main characters of the story. For examples, the famous fairy tales like Cinderella, Snow White, Aladdin, and etc. Or maybe in Indonesia there are some stories about legends, myths, or folk tales or fairy tales, and so on. Next, about the example of a short story or narrative text is the title is Hansel and Gretel. So there is a story you can see from the slide. There is a story about Hansel and Gretel. Yes, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 paragraphs that you can read. So after this, please read this text. Yeah, and then try to analyze the text. Try to mention some elements of the text, and also don't forget to write about the moral value or the message that you can take from the text. So remember that you have to write the parts of elements of the text that I have said before about the structure or generic structure of narrative text. The first is orientation, and then there is a complication, and then series of events or sequence of events, and then you can also find about the coda or message or moral value that you can take from the story. So please check these examples, try to analyze about the parts or elements of this text. Okay, so what you have to do, what you have write in your discussion forum is about analyze the text. There are 3 questions that you have to answer. The first is mention the elements or parts of each paragraph. So paragraph 1, what is that? And then paragraph 2 until 4. The second question is mention the characters and their personality. So please mention about the characters mentioned in the narrative text or the short story that I have given to you. Yes, like this. So please try to find the parts or elements of this text. Which one is orientation, which one is complications, which one is the sequence or events, series of events from this story, and then what is the message or moral value that you can take from the story. Okay, and also the third question is what is the message? Okay, what's the message of the story that you can take? Please explain. So there are three questions that you have to answer and write in discussion forum. Write your answer. And now after you answer these questions, now please listening practice. So there's a video uploaded in this unit. You have to watch, learn and listen, learn, watch and listen carefully, and then please write. After you listen and watch and also learn about the listening practice, and you watch and also listen about the explanation of the listening practice, please write your comments, write your impressions or opinion. You can write using I feel after I listen to the explanation, or I feel something like that. So just write your opinion after you listen and learn about the video of the listening practice. The last one is about the assessment, or your assessment is writing task. So please, first some points, there are 4 points that you have to do in this assessment. First is watch the visual short stories. So please, I have uploaded about a video about visual short story, so please watch and try to learn, try to imagine about the story. And the next is write your own imaginative short story based on the video. And after you find your imagination story based on the video that I have uploaded, please, next is about the elements or parts of the story or a narrative text. Please consider about how to mention and how to decide or divided the elements of the story. So please write your own story, and then please give notes or what we call give notes for each paragraph, which one is orientation, something like that. Yeah, so please consider about the parts or elements of the story. The last one is give a message or moral value that you can take from your imaginative story. So you have to write in your story what is the message or what is the moral value that that maybe other people can learn from your story. Okay, this is your assessment, and after you write or type your story, it's better to type, so it's a Word file, and then please upload your story file to discussion forum. Okay, once again, this is your assessment for this unit, so this is what you have to do after you learn and also study about a deeply explanation or understanding in narrative text or short story, because in grade 10 and also 11 you have learned about short story or narrative text, or even in junior high you have also learned about narrative text, but in a simple or maybe really short story. So this is time for you to write about your own imaginative short story based on the video that I have uploaded in this unit. Okay, well, this is the last. Thank you for your attentions and wish you luck. Don't be afraid, or if you're still confused, or maybe if you still have some questions that you want to ask me, just feel free to ask me. If you still need more explanation, you can chat me, or also you can ask me in the discussion forum. Thank you for your attention once again. I hope can see you soon and we can learn together at school. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.